Four countries. Banned. Effective 26th of March 2026. If you are a student from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar, or Sudan, and you have not submitted your UK student visa application before 12:01 in the morning on 26th of March 2026, your application will be automatically refused. Not delayed, not reviewed, refused. It does not matter if a UK university has already accepted you. It does not matter if you have already received your confirmation of acceptance for studies. It does not matter if you have paid your tuition fees. Your visa will be refused on nationality alone. And for Afghan nationals, it gets worse. Not just your student visa, your skilled worker visa is gone too. This is the most targeted and immediate visa ban the UK has imposed in living memory. And it came with less than 3 weeks of warning. On 4th of March 2026, the UK Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood made one of the most controversial immigration announcements in years. The UK government would impose what it called an emergency brake on student visas for nationals of Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar, and Sudan. Afghan nationals would additionally be banned from applying for skilled worker visas. The emergency brake would be introduced through a formal statement of changes to the immigration rules published on 5 March 2026 and would take effect at 12:01 in the morning on 26 March 2026. The speed of the announcement shocked universities, immigration lawyers, campaign groups, scholarship bodies, and the students themselves. Chevening scholarship interviews for Afghan applicants were placed on hold within days. Universities that had spent months recruiting international students from the affected countries suddenly found their pipelines collapsing. Students who had spent thousands on application fees, English language tests, housing deposits, and flight bookings discovered that a document they had already received, their confirmation of acceptance for studies, was now worthless for the purpose of obtaining a visa. This video tells you exactly what the visa brake is, why the government imposed it, what it means country by country, what happens if you have already paid fees or received a CAS, whether any workarounds or alternatives exist, what universities and employers are doing in response, and what this announcement signals about the broader direction of UK immigration policy in 2026. The first thing to understand is what the visa brake actually is as a legal mechanism and why it is different from a normal change to visa eligibility rules. The visa brake is a new policy mechanism introduced by the UK Home Office that allows the government to refuse visa applications from specific nationalities applying through specific routes, without changing the eligibility criteria for those routes as a whole. This distinction matters enormously. Under normal immigration rules, a student from any country who meets all the standard requirements for a UK student visa, who has a genuine university place, a valid CAS, enough money, sufficient English, and no criminal record, would expect to receive their visa. The visa brake bypasses all of that. It operates as a blanket nationality-based refusal that sits above the standard eligibility requirements. Even where an applicant holds a valid confirmation of acceptance for studies or certificate of sponsorship, an application made on or after 26th of March 2026 will still be refused if it falls within the visa brake. The possession of a KAS from a licensed UK university is not a protection. The possession of a COS from a licensed UK employer is not a protection. The only protection is submitting your application before the 12:01 deadline on 26 March 2026. The second point covers the government's stated justification for the ban and the statistical basis on which it rests. The Home Office stated that asylum applications by students from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar, and Sudan rocketed by over 470% between 2021 and 2025, making them among the most likely nationalities to claim asylum after arriving on student visas. The scale of this increase is striking. Between 2021 and 2025, the proportion of Afghan asylum claims to study visas issued was 95%, while applications by students from Myanmar soared 16-fold over the same period. Claims by students from Cameroon and Sudan spiked by more than 330%. The government presented these figures as evidence of what it called widespread visa abuse, arguing that students from these countries were using the student visa as a backdoor into the UK asylum system rather than completing their studies and returning home. In total, 133,760 people have claimed asylum after arriving legally in the past 5 years, with asylum claims from legal routes having more than trebled since 2021, making up 39% of the 100,000 people who applied last year. The Home Secretary framed the ban as protecting the integrity of a visa system that she said must not be abused, stating that Britain will always provide refuge to people fleeing war and persecution, but that the visa system must not be exploited for that purpose. The third point is about what each of the 4 countries looks like specifically, and why critics have challenged the government's framing. Afghanistan is the most severely affected country because its nationals face not just the student visa ban, but also the simultaneous removal of access to the skilled worker route. The proportion of Afghan asylum claims to study visas issued was 95% between 2021 and 2025. But critics have immediately pointed out that Afghanistan under Taliban rule since August 2021 is one of the most dangerous countries in the world for educated women and girls, who are forbidden from education beyond primary level and face severe persecution. Concerns have been raised that Afghan women who have been educated abroad may be persecuted if they return to Afghanistan. The Chevening Scholarship Program, run by the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office and funded by the UK taxpayer as a tool of British foreign policy and soft power, had already issued interview invitations to Afghan applicants for the 2026 to 2027 cohort. Those interviews were placed on hold within days of the announcement. Myanmar has been experiencing extreme political instability since the military coup in February 2021, which overthrew the democratically elected government. Applications by students from Myanmar soared 16-fold over the 4-year period from 2021 to 2025. The context of a military coup, mass imprisonment of political opponents, and ongoing civil war is directly relevant to understanding why Burmese students who come to the UK may not feel it is safe to return. Sudan has been experiencing a devastating civil war between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces since April 2023, described by the United Nations as one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. Cameroon has been experiencing an ongoing armed conflict in its Anglophone regions since 2016. Claims by students from Cameroon and Sudan spiked by more than 330% over the 4-year period. Immigration lawyer Sonia Lenigan publicly questioned the government's framing of the ban as a response to widespread abuse, noting that while percentage increases are striking, the absolute numbers of asylum claimants from these countries are relatively small compared to the total volume of the UK asylum system. The fourth critical point covers the specific impact on students who are already partway through the application process and what their options are right now. Any applications submitted online on or after 12:01 in the morning on 26 March 2026 will be refused if you are applying for a student visa and you are a national of Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar, or Sudan, or a skilled worker visa and you are a national of Afghanistan. But the rules also make clear that applications submitted before that precise deadline will be processed as normal under the existing rules. This creates a narrow but real window for some affected applicants. If you are a national of one of the 4 affected countries and you have already been accepted by a UK university and received your CAS, the single most urgent action you can take is to submit your student visa application before 12:01 in the morning on 26th of March 2026. If you submit before that deadline, your application falls under the old rules and will be assessed on its merits in the normal way. You will still need to meet all standard requirements, including sufficient funds, valid English language test, and a credible, genuine student intention. But the nationality restriction will not apply to your application. If you cannot submit before the deadline, perhaps because you do not yet have all the required documents, because your English test result has not arrived, or because you simply did not know about this ban in time, you will need to explore alternative routes, which may be limited depending on your individual circumstances and the country you are applying from. The restrictions do not cancel or affect visas that have already been granted. They only apply to new applications submitted on or after 26th of March 2026. If you are already in the UK on a valid student visa from one of the 4 affected countries, your existing visa is not canceled, and you can extend or switch routes provided you meet the relevant requirements for the new route. The 5th point covers what UK universities are doing in response and the scale of the impact on higher education. According to Higher Education Statistics Agency data, there were 3,175 students from the 4 affected countries studying at UK universities in 2024 to 2025. Of these, 2,665 came from Myanmar, 575 from Cameroon, 355 from Afghanistan, and 280 from Sudan. These numbers may appear modest in the context of total UK international student enrollment, which runs into the hundreds of thousands. But the impact is compounded by the fact that universities typically develop their international recruitment pipelines many months in advance. Offers have already been made. CAS documents have already been issued. Students have in some cases already paid accommodation deposits, enrolled in pre-sessional English courses, and made family decisions based on the expectation of studying in the UK. Universities are now facing the task of communicating an unexpected and devastating change to those students. The university's UK body and the Russell Group have both expressed concern about the impact on individual students and on the UK's reputation as a welcoming destination for international education. Some institutions are exploring whether existing scholarship commitments can be honored through alternative arrangements, such as sponsored distance learning or deferred entry once and if the ban is lifted. The 6th point covers the broader significance of this visa break as a policy tool and what it signals about the future direction of UK immigration controls. The visa break as a mechanism is explicitly designed to be temporary and reviewable. The Home Office has said it will conduct regular reviews of the ban and that it can be lifted if the conditions that triggered it change. But the government has not published a specific timeline for review or a specific benchmark that would trigger removal of the ban. The introduction of the visa break concept also raises a significant question about which countries could be added to the list in the future. In November 2025, the Home Secretary publicly threatened to close all UK visas for Angola, Namibia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo unless those governments agreed to accept deportation flights for refused asylum seekers. That threat was not ultimately carried out in the same way as the current ban, but it demonstrates that the visa break is not an isolated response to a one-time problem. It is a new tool in the government's immigration enforcement arsenal that will be used again if the government believes the conditions for its use are met. For students from any country where asylum claim rates are rising, the lesson of the March 2026 ban is stark. The UK government is willing to impose blanket nationality-based bans with fewer than 3 weeks of notice, with no grace period for students who are already deep in the application process. The 7th and final point covers what affected students, universities, employers, and supporters should do right now. If you are a national of Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar, or Sudan, and you have a valid CAS or are close to having one, you must submit your complete UK student visa application before 12:01 in the morning on 26 March 2026. This means having all documents ready, all fees paid including the immigration health surcharge, which is $776 per year for students, and your application fully completed and submitted through the official UK Visas and Immigration online portal before that exact moment. If you cannot meet that deadline, contact a regulated UK immigration solicitor immediately to understand whether any alternative routes exist for your specific circumstances. If you are a UK university with students from the affected countries who have outstanding applications, communicate clearly and urgently with those students about the deadline and consider what institutional support you can offer for fee refunds, deferred entry, or alternative study arrangements. If you are an employer in the UK who had planned to sponsor an Afghan national under the skilled worker route, and that person has not yet submitted their application, seek legal advice immediately, as any certificate of sponsorship already assigned to that person will not overcome the visa break if the application is submitted after 26 March. And if you are from any country that is not currently on the banned list, the lesson from this announcement is that the UK immigration system can change rapidly with minimal notice in ways that affect even students who are already partway through a legitimate application process. Building extra time, flexibility, and contingency into your immigration planning is now essential. The UK emergency visa break of March 2026 is a moment that will be studied for years by immigration lawyers, policy analysts, university administrators, and human rights advocates. It represents a new use of state power in immigration enforcement, one that bypasses individual assessment in favor of categorical nationality-based exclusion. Whether it achieves its stated objective of reducing asylum claims from legal routes without causing serious harm to innocent students, to UK universities, and to Britain's reputation as a global education destination remains to be seen. What is certain right now is that for the estimated 3,875 students from the 4 affected countries who were studying in the UK, and for the many more who were planning to, the announcement of 4 March 2026 changed everything. If you are watching this video and you or someone you care about is affected, the most important message is this: the window is small, the deadline is real. Act now. Share this video with every student you know who may be affected. Leave your questions in the comments below. Subscribe to this channel for every update on UK visa and immigration changes as they happen throughout 2026. Your future in the UK may depend on the information you have and the speed with which you act on it.